that unfortunately we live in a society that oftentimes with systematized tests and so forth, that there's a monolithic definition of success, right? If you don't get, straight A's and, go to, I guess here, what, the University of Edinburgh, is that one of the best, what's one of the better, Glasgow's better than Edinburgh?
Yes.
Okay, I don't want to get myself in trouble here. I was actually just reading an article from the New Yorker on the plane. This guy, Malcolm Gladwell, who wrote all these books. He was talking about how the U.S. News and World Report magazine has a yearly ranking of U.S. universities. And he was saying how he was looking into what are the criterion for those rankings. And just saying how that if you just change simple things around, that you get entirely different, results. And that it's almost like a bit ridiculous to think that even with one university with 45,000 students and numerous departments and thousands of staff, that you can just give it a number and then say that it's better than another school. I mean, the point is that I lost my train of thought now. What were we talking about? Before we got into the tangent of the University of Edinburgh.
Every individual being important.
Thank you. Every single one of you has something special that the person next to you doesn't have. And that's, we need to move forward. And that this is one of the, your parents, or maybe some of you who are even sitting here, who came to this country, that those who grew up in the second generation have had the, food laid on the table for them. That many of your parents came and that they didn't have mosques, so they had to build them. They didn't have, this is a beautiful center, look at this is really beautiful. The things that you can do in a building, this is really beautiful, and you have a yard up front, this is beautiful. This didn't come out of a void. People had to work hard to raise the money to get this and to make this happen. And unfortunately, that many of us that grow up, because we've had everything laid out for us, all we're concerned is the new video game that comes out, the new song that's on YouTube, or whatever, the new application for our iPhones, or whatever. That we've had things laid on the table for us, and so we've lacked, the himma, the intention to be able to contribute. And I put converts at the top of that list. As converts as well, that oftentimes I've found a lot of difficulty working with converts because I find that they're lazy oftentimes, that they're lackadaisical. They don't have, even though they have zeal for their religion, but they don't have the mentality of like wanting to build something. Because that takes integrity, that takes perseverance, and that takes commitment, and that takes focus. Oftentimes converts just want to do everything. They have their foot here, and they don't end up doing anything. But I hope that every single person here will make an intention from right now to dedicate themselves to a project. And that if you master that you're dedicating yourself to that particular project, then expand and dedicate yourself to another project. There is so much that we need to be doing. That we need to be dealing with issues of world hunger. We need to be dealing with issues of clothing the homeless and feeding the homeless, providing shelters for the homeless. That we need to have marriage counselors. That we need to have psychologists and psychiatrists. That there is a long list of things that we need for our communities to be healthy. And unfortunately, that if you haven't yet noticed, that the Muslim community seems to be one of the main communities that's in denial. We have a lot of problems in our communities, and you all know that more than I do. And that we have to deal with our problems, and that we have to, take people and provide people alternatives to get out of those problems. And the generation of uncles and of leadership who are running the masajid and a lot of our centers and so forth and organizations, they need to give us the room that we need in our generation to be able to create the necessary environments and the social space needed for that. Because if we don't provide our children and our youth with opportunities and alternatives, we're going to lose them. We're going to lose them to this wave that is inundating them oftentimes with things that are not going to uplift them. And that this is the really interesting, subtlety that, is it already 1:30? Huh? Is that 4? I was going to say, oh my gosh, time flies, doesn't it? That we are not, there's nothing inherent in Islam that is countercultural, nor is there anything inherently in Islam that is anti-modernity or anti-modern. Right? And so that nor are we necessarily anti-global or anti-globalism. That, however, that the specific way that modernity manifested, the specific way that globalism manifested, that we have a critique, and we should have a calculated critique. And this is the job of rightly guided, upright religious people in any time, to be able to assess their situation and assess their time, and to be able to provide people with alternatives and ways out of that. And that there is many beautiful things that we can embrace in modernity. The very fact I'm using a microphone right now. I have an iPhone right in front of me here. That I have these amazing applications here that I can search the Quran and check the news and all these other incredible things right here before me. I have my iPod on there and listen to lectures. And that what we need to do is engage, but in a calculated way. But at the same time, to have the critical thinking skills to be able to see through some of the negative aspects of this. And I think one of the most beautiful things that we can preserve as a community and as adherents of the religion of Islam are some of these prophetic virtues. And this is why this tour, and the reason I'm here now, is because this evening, and there's been a series of lectures thus far, that it's based upon prophetic virtues. And I think that we have a lot to offer the modern world. Whether or not people are going to listen to us or not, that's a different, subject. But we still are required, to live by that, because we know how to live as Muslims. We know how to live. And as dysfunctional as many of the Muslim countries are, as dysfunctional as many of the communities are, the remnants of the prophetic teachings and revelation that still exists and is synthesized in the heart of many and most Muslims and many and most families is something really beautiful. It's really, really beautiful. And that there's people that have seen the other side and that have experienced dysfunctional families and haven't experienced love from their parents. I know many of you that oftentimes when it comes to the greater society, or even maybe your own friends, you're kind of embarrassed the way that your mom treats you, and she thinks she's too loving, and she might kiss you in front of other people or just treat you. To this day, I'm 33, my mom thinks I'm like a little child. I was fortunate to be from a home that wasn't broken, and there was a lot of love. My parents never really argued, which was a great blessing that I didn't realize until later. And I was attempting to draw near to Allah. And I looked back on it, and I was very grateful and thankful to Allah. I am thankful to Allah for that. But that if you see someone that's grown up in the opposite of, I had a friend who,